And just keep doing that. If interfering thoughts come in, that's any thoughts about the past or the future. Anything that's not right here and now. Here's the ego mind just doing what it does, just thinking away. So if you notice that happening, there's no need to get upset in any way, to get judgmental about yourself. Lack of mental discipline, why can't I get this right? That's just more ego. You just notice, you smile, and you gently return your attention to the breath. Just putting all your attention on the breathing process, and just noticing all the subtle sensations of the breath, the stomach rising, the chest rising, air flowing in through the nostrils, subtle rising of energy to the crown of your head. You smile. And you exhale. Just sigh it all out. Turn your attention to the breath. So there's really nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. Nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still for a few minutes. Into that stillness, I'm just going to read a very short passage. It's just the introduction to A Course in Miracles. So just allow it to drop into that awareness, into that stillness. You don't have to try and intellectually understand the words. Just allow them to permeate in to your awareness. Just absorbing them on an energetic level. The words carry frequency and energy, so tap into that. And just keep watching your breath to stay connected to this nice, peaceful, calm, empty, open, spacious awareness. As you listen in this very present way, allowing way. So this is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The Course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So just take a nice deep breath in, And as you do that, you create some space in your mind. Just look within, honestly, and notice any of these blocks to the awareness of love's presence that can show up in the form of fear, anxiety about the future, worry, maybe some irritation, which is really just to cover over intense rage, as Jesus says in the Course. Frustration, irritation, anger in any form, jealousy, sadness, depression, resentment, grievances, guilt. Just notice any of these scraps, because they're just little fragments of thoughts and feelings that go with them. This is about tuning into the very subtle nuances of this thing we call the ego. Becoming aware of the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. And if you notice any of them, just take another nice deep breath, smile, because noticing, becoming aware of these blocks is the first step in the process of letting them go. You can't let go of it if you haven't become aware of it first. It's a paradox, but then that's what we're working with. Paradoxical nature of so-called reality based on dualistic thought system. Now the second step is just to let it go. Make a decision to just drop the thought, the emotion, the energy, the feeling of it, the thought of it. It's a thought feeling really. As you exhale, just blow it all out. Just willing to let go of that block, whatever it was. Feel it dissipating in your physical body, in your energy system. It helps you can imagine it's like dark gray or black smoke. You just spelling out, blow it all out, let it all go. From the lower stomach into the spine, so you're completely empty of air and of this negative energy. It's gone. Because as Jesus says, the opposite of love is fear, seemingly, in the world on the level of form. That's what appears to be the case. But what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. There really is no opposite to this loving, open, expansive presence that maybe you're feeling now. Because when you let go of the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, all that's left is love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So this course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So just sink into that peace. Watch your breath for a couple of minutes of silence. There's nowhere else to go, there's nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just surrender into this peace of God. For the next 2 minutes of silence. And if you notice any thoughts arising, to just cloud that awareness, to interfere with the peace of God. Just to let them go gently by turning all your attention to your breath. Imagine that like clouds just drifting by. They have no power to obscure the eternally serene sky, which is your true awareness. So just as you exhale, blow them away with the wind of your breath. And just rest in this peace, the peace of God. For another minute of silence. And so very gently, on the count of 3, you're going to bring your awareness back into your body, into the world, through the breath. So breathing in, notice how the stomach rises, chest rises, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Smile at the top of the inhale, just for no other reason than that you're aware. You're aware of your awareness, and in that lies love and peace and joy and everything your heart desires. And exhale, sigh it all out. Make a little sighing sound in the back of your throat. As though you're fogging sunglasses, but you keep your mouth closed. Air flows out of your nostrils. Chest and the stomach suck back in. So that's 1. At the bottom of the exhale, just notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Just anchoring yourself back into the physical body, but at the same time, this transcendent awareness is with you always. It can never really go away. So that's going to stay with you for the rest of the session and the whole day. So it is said, so it is done. So 2, just breathing in again, noticing the stomach rise, the chest rise, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Maybe there's a slight smell in your nose as you breathe in, a taste in your mouth. Just notice these subtle sensations that you don't normally notice. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Ticking of a clock. Whirring of a computer fan. Raindrops outside. So whatever you're hearing, allow it to arise, to blow through your mind and then to subside without any mental commentary, without naming it, judging it, labeling it, interpreting it in any way. Just allow it to be. And notice how peaceful it is when you perceive this way. This is non-judgmental perception, which is what we're trying to train our minds to do through practicing A Course in Miracles, any authentic spiritual path. It's about relinquishing our normal judgments, opening us to another way of being, another way of looking at the world. And so 3, as you open your eyes, just look differently on everything. Give yourself a minute just to look around, noticing the various objects. You're there, letting your eyes rest randomly on whatever object they happen to for a few seconds. Don't name it or judge it or label it. Just move on to something else. If you notice your mind creating any meaning, attaching any meaning to anything, you just let that go, dismiss it, and move on. And do that for half a dozen objects. And notice how peaceful it is when you perceive this way. This is what it means to be non-judgmental, to be forgiving by your default nature, is just to allow everything to be, and there's no mental commentary or judgment in it. And that's what we're trying to train our mind to do through these meditations. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you're on the WhatsApp group, I'm going to say farewell. Just going to end this meditation. But let's continue with the discussion. So, yeah, anyone like to share anything? Just do a little expression. What's on your mind? So what are you thinking? What are you feeling, really? Right now about anything? So it can be just how you feel exactly now, or it could be, okay, something's arisen in the last few days. I had some stuff to work through. I've still got a resident feeling of that.
I think if I can start.
Yeah, please.
Understanding how the ego works can also be challenging, because you start judging yourself when you buy into it, you know. And I'm in a long distance relationship now, and I thought jealousy is a thing of the past for me. and last week I experienced jealousy, and straight away, like, it was a momentary thing, you know, and straight away I go into judgment on myself. I'm like, geez, like, you know, what are you doing, you know? Because I understand that that's a confirmation that I'm not okay, that there's something lacking in me, you know. And then you start analyzing, and the next morning I realized, also through my learning, is that an analysis of that is not helpful. And I hadn't done lessons in a while. I've been reading the text, and I didn't want to go into the beginning, the first part of the lessons. I wanted to, so I don't know if you've noticed, but there's 2 parts to the lesson. There's part 1 and part 2.
Yeah.
And so I just started at part 2. And part 2 is, starts off with, I'm not a body, I'm free, and I'm still as God created me. And all I did was go into focusing on that for a week. I literally just stayed on that. And the idea was not to focus on judging myself and what I had experienced, but just taking the focus back to what's like right, God, you know. And yeah, it's been an interesting week, because, you know, it's layers of the onion. Like I say, you think you've dealt with something, and then it comes back and it's bite you again, you know. So that's been my experience for the week.
Thank you for sharing that. So we can all relate to it. Anyone else like to speak what's on your mind?
So we've been having a challenging time with
It's not telecom this time.
no. But in the whole process, it's trying to remain centered, because there are no receiver revenue offices open, so you can't even go and speak to somebody. They're all working from home. So you have no choice but to deal with someone on the phone. And this one tells you this time, and then you might lose the call, and then you have to speak. You can't get to speak to the same person. You have to either start your story all over, or now you're dealing with it. And the first person said this, and they go, no, that's not the problem. Then the next person says, no, this is the problem. And I say, oh, well, no one told me that. And just trying to resolve the issues. And just trying to remain centered in it all, because I've been doing this a long time, and I choose peace when I'm doing this, everything else. But I've been reading another book, and I just want to share this line out of it. And it was so amazing to come up with all of this. I haven't got the whole paragraph, but just a line. Since no one can step away from themselves, it would be impossible for anyone to escape the logic of their own thought. I mean, oh my word. So I was so grateful for that, because then trying to see the person on the other side as doing the absolute best that they could. Even if they didn't give me all the information, even if it took 10 or 15 calls, just that realization that we're all in that logic of our own thought. And the hardest thing for me in dealing with it is that I used to do people's taxes. So, but look, rules have changed. It's 15 years since I've been out of the game. And just to remember when I'm even speaking to that person is to treat them with some dignity, treat them with respect, and begin to see that whatever the situation is actually an act of love. And it's not easy, I want to tell you that my body is screaming the other way. But the more I just started it before I even started the call, the more peace came. And that's really what I wanted to share. So I still don't know if it's completely resolved. They say it could take up to 6 months to resolve. I will need to phone in 3 weeks, but at the same time, just saying it is what it is. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And just realizing how much my own thoughts have been driving me. And that logic of my own thought, because I'm a very analytical person. I mean, when you're doing books, you have to be an analytical person, and that's my natural way of thinking. But to try and step out of that and allow spirit to say, okay, you must have a better way. You have definitely got a better way than I can do it. And it's challenging. I just want to say it's extremely challenging. I've had a few tears and a few upsets and say, you don't actually understand what I mean. But at the end of the day, when you surrender it to spirit, there is that moment of absolute peace. There is that moment, something higher than I can, that this body, this mind can even begin to think, can do it in a way I can't even begin to do it. And so, yes, we all have our challenges. We all have things that are pressing our buttons, and we're all trying to think in our own mind, in our logic, which is just our logic. It isn't right, it isn't wrong, it just is. And just learning to surrender in a way that seems sometimes impossible. I just want to say thank you very much to all of you for coming. It's a really great privilege to have you.
Thank you Thank you for having us. You done? Oh, you want to share what's on your mind? Well, everyone will have their turn, don't we? You don't have to. You pause.
I was just saying to Jono, I'm not like one that normally one-on-one I'm quite talkative. Like,
Oh, just pretend you're talking to me one-on-one.
yeah, he's talking about me doing like YouTube videos and everything. I'm like,
well, you're doing one now.
I'm just, the camera's not there, okay?
Yeah,
just focusing
exactly.
I told you the cat would be on my lap in no time. Meditation, cat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I went for, this is not what I was going to say, but I went for a Reiki and healing session this week, and this lady's amazing, and lo and behold, I walk in and she says, oh, the cat never comes in here. I sit down on the couch, the cat jumps up, I get onto the healing bed, the cat jumps up, curls himself on my lap the whole time. So, yeah, and this week has just been like, from a day-to-day happening perspective, it's been challenging. Scuba diving with sharks and dolphins on Saturday morning, and by Saturday afternoon I put my back out on the boat by pulling a cylinder over. I mean, for me, diving is almost like having an out-of-body experience, although it's very grounding. There's no phones, there's no traffic, there's no sirens, there's nothing. It's basically you and your breath. And I find it like one of the most exciting and exhilarating things to do. And what did I create for myself? No more diving for the rest of the weekend. So my husband went off and did his diving, and I was like left there in the middle of like, well, not left there, but I was at the lodge, and there was like no one else there. And like, the first, now you're in pain, you can't really do anything. And myself, here's the lesson. Okay, don't switch on the laptop. So that helped. That worked on Sunday, but I had a few other things I needed to do. I had a sports massage. And then Monday morning I was up ready to dive, and the dive master looked at me and said, you can't even cough. You can't even pick up your cup of coffee without flinching. You know, you can't dive. Bottom line is no. I said, well, I'm going home then. My husband said, well, you can go home. I said, I don't know how you're going to get there because we're here in my car. And he said, you'll just get home and you'll just do. And you'll just carry on. And for that day, I just sat, I swam, drank coffee, read a bit, did a meditation. It's like I would never have done that if I was at home. So then I got home and I thought, okay, cool. So my husband gets very cold diving, so he's bought this dry suit. Sorry, I told you the story, but it's quite comical. Like, you know, if you put your back out, you're generally in quite a high level of pain. So I decided on Tuesday morning, I'm going to do my washing, then do my back workshop, because it will be good for my back. Then hang up my washing, then shower, then get behind my desk and do my work. So washing's done, back workshop's done, okay, hang washing outside. And I swing the door open. My husband has hung his wetsuit, his dry suit out the night before. And it took the shape of basically a big man standing there with its arms out. And what did I do? I went, ah! And I pulled back, and I just heard my back go click again. And I thought, oh, I've just undone all of that, what I've done in the back workshop. I got such a fright because I thought there was somebody like there attacking me. Oh, okay, cool. See the sense of humor in it. Go hang the washing. I come inside, and I'm just like moving the dry suit out the way because it was kind of hanging in my way. And I see something flying towards me. Put my hand up to stop this thing. Get stung by a hornet. See this thing flaring up. And I'm like, oh no, this is all very humorous. Go upstairs, send him a message. I said, yo, your dry suit man scared the bejeebies out of me, but not as much as literally the hornet's nest that it's stirred up. And so the week went on, you know, it was just like comedy of errors. I got tonsillitis. I've got my kitten's claw went in my eye yesterday morning. I've got strange like roasties on my shoulder. And I'm thinking, this is all just an illusion. If this is an illusion, why is this all happening? So I go to lie down yesterday after working pretty much the whole day. I'm supposed to not work on a weekend because I'll need to burn out because I'm at 250% directly. I lie down on the bed. What happens? Guy who's doing our labels contacts me. A lady, a friend of mine, says her neighbor's just lost the cat. Her cat, or not lost a cat, 3 days ago. And I'm like, all I want to do is rest this eye. It's like weeping and seeping. Then something else happened, and then my other cat came into the room, and I said, Bruce, Dandelion's calm. Let's give him his 100 mils of hydration. We stick a needle in his back and give him hydration. I said, I'm obviously not meant to be resting right now. And after that, I thought, you know what? You got 15 minutes before yoga, just go rest. Another message from my friend about this cat. Please, can you help? This woman loves cats more than you do. And as she said that, I got this like overwhelming sense that I need to help. I thought, what can I do? I can't drive to Bedford View now. And then I thought, okay, just get down to basics. Anyway, I sent another number for an animal communicator, and I kind of like tapped into this cat that was lost, and this woman that had lost her cat. This cat wasn't microchipped, and I could just feel all of a sudden stuff that I hadn't even felt for a long time. And started tapping into where this cat was. So I started feeding like clues on where this cat was. It's under a green bush with dark leaves. It's near something yellow. This is what she needed to do: go outside, walk barefoot, sprinkle pellets, hold the light in her heart, send it to the cat with love. So I just kept on feeding things through, and I didn't really think much about it. And this morning, just before I got to the gardens, I left a voice note for my friend, and I said, look, I think the cat is very weak, but if your friend practices those techniques. And messages came through while we were walking around the gardens. I hadn't even listened to them when we sat down for lunch, and I started pressing them. And it was the lady, Cherie, saying that they had gone and they had done that, and they'd found the yellow, which was blackjack flowers from blackjacks. And this kitten had returned home at 5:30 this morning. And my friend just left me this message. She's like, you know what you're supposed to be doing, Kari? You're supposed to be working with spirit and your abilities. And I was just all of a sudden at peace. It was like, That was a lot for somebody that doesn't normally talk in groups, but
yeah,
disappeared.
actually, that's great. Came out of your shell. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
And that is what's called a miracle. Which we'll talk about principles of miracles a little bit when we get into the discussion.
Wow.
Thank you. Have you done? Hazel, anything to?
No, I haven't got much. Just that I thought I'd revise my Reiki notes because I'm sending out a lot of Reiki with COVID and everything else. And I thought, no, I'm stop practicing myself. And I actually discovered a new technique that he never taught us. Anyway, it hasn't done much for my back because that's what I'm trying to.
So tell us how you're feeling. What's going on? That's what an expression session is about.
Well, I don't think it was appropriate for you to laugh at me today when I said, let's keep going, because what happened? It did rain. But I'm glad I at least was all right with my umbrella.
Okay. So a little bit of what? Irritation?
Very much so.
Okay, yeah. Why were you irritated?
Because you laughed, you didn't think that, I mean, the next minute it was closing. I said it was closing in, and it did. You kind of poo-pooed it. So I don't mind if you walked in the, then you had to go back to the car to put things down. You think, well, that's when I decided to get my umbrella. So I was all right, Jack.
Okay, but why did it upset you? That's the question.
I was frustrated. I wanted to get going because I could see it was in, several people have said with their news forecast on their phone that it was going to pour. Okay. And I thought the next one I'll come all this way and I won't even be able to look around.
But how did it all work out in the end?
Well, I didn't get wet. I was fine.
So it was all fine. It all worked out perfectly. We got here on time. We had a walk
You didn't
around.
get here on time. You then had to rush ahead You didn't even see where I was parked. The car might have started. In fact, yesterday it didn't start. Then where would I have been?
Well,
You didn't even notice where I was. You didn't even look back. In fact, excuse me.
Okay. Well, moving on from that, maybe we'll revisit some of those issues. So, yeah, I had an interesting experience this week. I had to go and do some shopping, and when I came to pay it, the teller, I had my mask on, you know, as you have to do, but it had slipped down below my nose, which tends to happen. It's not like one of those really. And so the teller's like, no, I'm not going to serve you unless you put your mask over your nose. And I was like, I could just feel that irritation rising, going like, right, who is this teller to tell me what to do? And she's got absolutely no idea what's actually going on, because, you know, I've done all this research and I understand what's really going on with COVID, and the whole thing's a scam, in my opinion. But I was aware of it. I was like, okay, I know I'm irritated here. Like, there's this ego going on. So anyway, I was like, just said to her, well, can call your supervisor if you need to. So she calls her supervisor, and the supervisor comes in and obviously like tries to smooth things over. Can I get you a trolley or whatever? But I was a bit like ruffled. I could feel the ego. It's got a little bit of a charge out of that. So then I drive back, and I decide, no, well, I'm going to avoid the normal way, which is Louis Vuitton. And I went another way to avoid, because I'd seen cops there before. So I'm like, okay, I'll go the other way. Well, there are cops on the other way too. The guy stops me and goes, oh, he says, you've got a watermelon there. I said, I would ask you for some, but it's too big. I said, yeah, you're right. It's too big. It's not. So again, I'm like, you know, just getting a little bit irritated. So then I drive past my old school, which is closed at the moment. And I just thought, you know what, actually, I'm just going to pull in here. I want to do a breath break anyway. So I just thought, I'm just going to stop, pause. And it was quiet, and it was a pretty quiet road, just like these old, what are they, oaks, I think, under these oak trees. And there was this bird just twittering in the background, a bit of traffic. I just sat there and I was like, just became aware of this beautiful stillness. Just like, oh, that's just so nice compared with all this mind stuff and, you know, masks and people trying to get bribes from you. And I suppose it was just you know this intellectually, but it was just an experiential kind of knowing that, yeah, there's just peace. That's what it is. It's nothing complicated. It's just dropping all that stuff, all the mind stuff, all the emotions about what you think should be happening, shouldn't be happening, personal self. It's just going, actually, it's just that. That's actually what I really want. So why don't I give myself that more often? Because it's always there. It's always available. And so I think over the last few days, it's been like a deepening into like, okay, don't think as much. Just stop. I was aware of it in the garden. So I'm sitting there, and then the mind's, you know, starting to go down the track of, you know, and you go, no, just, I'm regarding the meditation, regarding myself really. Just stop, pause, and just let go of those thoughts. So Hazel, to answer you, the reason I laughed was because I observed your mind pattern. And what your ego was doing was it was taking you out of the moment into the future and going, oh, it's possibly going to rain. So now that's a future thought. And, oh, that's going to ruin my day, which is the ego going, I have all these expectations about how my day should turn out. And so I apologize if I offended you, because I didn't mean to. But it was really just noticing that mind pattern, which is playing out in you. And it's not personal. It's just that's what the ego does. It doesn't want you ever to enter into the present moment and just be, I'm absolutely okay right here, right now. I don't need to think about anything else. There's no past, there's no future, there's no expectation, there's no fear. I'm just here as I am, just opening to this infinite, eternal, present stillness. And in a way, I felt, I don't know if sad's the word, but it's like you weren't getting that. You weren't experiencing that because you blocked yourself from experiencing what it was actually really about. So although, you said you had these ideas about what the day should be and you wanted to see this and whatever, actually, the whole point is not what you're going to see and do. And the whole point is just to go there and be, and just be totally okay with that. I am in the moment, right here, right now. And I'm at peace, I'm happy. And it was clear you weren't at peace or happy. So I apologize, I didn't mean to offend you, but just take it as the universe giving you some feedback, because you were out of your flow. You were there was no happiness or light or peace or joy coming in. And
you were just jolly lucky you weren't drenched, because that's what they said on the news forecast.
Yeah, but it all worked out fine.
Going on when we left to go to see the waterfall. It was already going on for 1 o'clock.
So
I think, okay.
I think we can let it go.
Yeah, I think we should just move on because
and really move on from this. It's really, we can't do anything about undoing it. And I think we should stay present in what we're doing here.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Shall we start with the preface?
Yeah.
But I don't want
I
to
is it in your bag?
It's wrapped in my white shirt. Thank you. I don't want to ruin a 6-year-old book that's just been, sorry, a 14-year-old book that's just been written.
Because you had it for 14 years.
2006.
Wow, near nobody.
Okay, I'm actually going to get my book as well.
What are we following?
The preface.
We're going to look at the preface. It's quite long, so I think maybe skip to section 3. Because the first 2 parts are about how the course came and what it said. Well, actually, maybe section 2 as well. It's quite good. What it is.
Did we do this preface, or was it me reading? Did we do this preface about 3-4 months ago?
We may have.
On Sunday afternoon.
We may have. I'm not sure we did the whole of it.
Unless you've done some of it in the book.
Yeah, I've talked about how it came. So that's the first section. How it came was.
When you were online, we spoke about how it came.
Yeah, exactly. How it came was quite miraculous.
Yeah.
There's just 2 people joining, and they, as she herself, she wrote the first 2 sections, said that, this was very unlikely because we weren't really spiritual at all. We weren't living according to the course's principles, and yet this amazing teaching came through these 2 people.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I listened to something this week. She actually didn't practice the course.
Oh, I know. Because I've listened to Ken Wapnick, and
yeah, that was.
He said she was.
She didn't need to. That's what his answer was.
She understood it intellectually, but she found it very hard to let go of her own natural personality, which is quite brittle. She was quite a uptight, sort of anxious, difficult person.
In fact, she died of cancer, says a lot.
Yeah. So. And she actually said, I'm in this situation where I don't really believe in my own life's work, which is like a huge conflict in me. And I just have to sort of live with that. This was her life's work. She understood that, and she accepted that, she was a messenger and this had come through.
She was the channel.
She was a channel, but she didn't believe in it herself.
Quite interesting.
Yeah.
She wasn't normally psychic, was she? She just
suddenly started
she
having.
Had to be, I think.
She must have had a tendency.
What's the right word? Academic. Because this is
Wow.
very long language.
No, it wasn't her language.
It wasn't her, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, she was an intelligent person. She was an intellectual.
Yeah,
That's
she,
what I
she,
said, yeah.
she describes it not as a channeling, but more as in a dictation. That's what
It
Yeah.
is dictation. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a voice which she didn't hear, but it was more like it just, the words arose in it. Who knows exactly how she experienced it, but she would just write it down in a little notebook. And then she'd take it in the next day to Bill, and she'd read and he'd type up, and that's how the whole thing came into being.
Is he still
American.
alive?
No, they both passed away a long time ago.
Oh, maybe you need to start writing.
It's now the seventh person in a week.
No. Oh, it's interesting. He's obviously got some intuitive gifts. That
And
sort of almost seems like selling health products is.
is a byproduct.
Well, maybe you do that. You know.
Yeah, I was like, I
as
need,
your day job, but-
I need a new journal, but I don't have time to go to the shops and this unfolded. So hopefully a pen will unfold from my bag as well. You need a pen.
There you go.
Thank you.
So that's how it, and then you know one day they were driving to another disciplinary hearing, which happened quite frequently because it was not a particularly nice environment. There was a lot of conflict, a lot of egos going on, and Bill just said, you know, I'm tired of this. It's got to be a better way. And Helen agreed with him, which he was quite surprised with because they'd had their own a lot of conflict themselves. And so that was the little willingness, a meeting of minds in a common purpose, which then was the invitation to the Holy Spirit to use them, because they'd said yes, we open to it.
As long as he can hear you next in time.
And the result is this, which has touched millions of people's lives. Amazing, right? And you know how it was published? That's also the story worth telling. Have you heard that?
Maybe, but I can't remember.
So a couple of years down the line, first of all, it started with the two of them. They were like, okay, I think we've completed this, because the voices kind of said amen. So I think it's now the end of it. They were like, they said, well, to Jesus, what do we do? What do we do with this? He said, no, he said, should we publish it? Yes. So how? I said, no, don't worry, I'll put you in touch with a woman. And they're like, okay, who? So no, don't worry, it'll all unfold. So a couple of weeks later, Bill was sitting in some lecture. This lady called Judy Scutch is giving it. And suddenly she starts speaking the course. She's like quoting directly from the course. And he's like, whoa. Okay, because this is a manuscript now that's been locked away in Helen's cupboard. No one has seen it. So he's like, okay, this is clearly, so he goes and talks to her and says, how did you say that? She said, I don't know, I just said it. It just something came over me, and she'd been praying for an answer because she was pretty miserable. So a few days before, she got on her knees and gone like, there's got to be a better way. She had everything she needed materially. She had quite a wealthy husband, but she wasn't happy. She wanted to feel fulfilled. So she'd gone and shown her way. And then she meets Bill, and he goes, well, will you meet me and Helen? She's like, okay. She has no idea why. And so then they're sitting down around the table, and suddenly Judy just says, you've been hearing voices, haven't you? Helen's like, okay, how did you know that? I said, I don't know, I just know. She said, and you've written them down, haven't you? Yes, that's actually why I wanted to talk to you. And then they show her the manuscript, and then she starts she's a lecturer of some sort, so she starts printing little booklets and giving them to her students, and they can't print them fast enough. The moment they've done them, there's more demand. And so that happened for, I don't know how long, maybe a year or two. And then suddenly they're like, okay, well, should we publish this? And they have a little gathering. There's Helen and Bill, Judy Scutch, and Ken Wapnick sitting around the table. And so they're going, okay, well, who should publish this? And they all get different answers. And Judy Scutch gets the answer, the person who will publish this, because they'd had like rejections from various publishers and it just wasn't happening. The people who will publish this will dedicate their entire life to the course. And they're kind of going, well, what publisher's going to do that? And then it kind of comes to them, well, it's you. You're going to be the publishers. But first, he said, commit. First, you've got to commit. You know, you've got to make that commitment to say, yes, I'll dedicate my entire life to this. So they did that. And then the next morning, they get a call from some guy in Mexico, of all places. And he goes, you know, I'm just phoning you to say I love these little booklets, and, you know, are you going to publish this as a book? And I said, well, funny you should ring, because we had a meeting about it last night, and yes, we want to, but we don't know how, you know, how to do that. Oh, he said, don't worry. He said, I've already posted your check. I've got your address. The check's in the mail. I've just sold a piece of land, and I've decided that the best use of the money is to publish the course. And apparently it was enough, just enough to publish the first edition. So
Another little miracle.
yeah, it's all, you know, just the way it came about is pretty miraculous. So,
You tell that story and then relate it to a miracle that happened to you, that you suddenly got the money for something?
yeah, I did. I think I did that last time. Yeah.
And it came by complete surprise.
Yeah, something like that. I think it was when I went to go overseas, and it just, like, I got this email, and the moment I saw the email, I was like, I need to go. It was like weird, you know, like often these emails go into spam, but this email I saw, there's a conference in Geneva. I was on values, and at the time I was working on a system for introducing like a values-based measurement system into companies. So it was like, sort of made sense, but it wasn't really just that. It was like, I just instantly knew I've got to go. I was like, well, I don't know how, I don't have the money. But the money came within a month or two. It became available, and it was like, I went. And as a result of that, well, my whole life changed. I met my wife, and it was like, if I hadn't done that trip, none of that would have happened. So I think it's just, you get these little pointers from the universe, and then you know, you've got a choice. You're either going to listen and follow or not.
Yeah.
If you block it, then you're blocking your natural flow. If you just allow it to happen, often the way will be made clear to, you know, whatever you need for that to happen.
It's often a difficulty though, isn't it? I mean, knowing, you know, often when you have to make a decision, I often find this, and then I say, is this coming from me? Is this coming from the Holy Spirit? You know, am I being guided to do this, or is this coming from me? You know, that's the difficulty for me.
Well, I don't think you're alone in that.
I just want to see if it's on my phone or whether it was talking about that.
Good. Have you got the answer for me?
I think it's a feeling.
I still haven't made the
David Hoff must
decision.
have posted something on Facebook, and I remember one, years and years ago I'm talking, a lady came out, her name was Greta.
Oh yeah, I remember Greta.
Do you remember Greta?
I do, yeah. Greta.
And
Can't
she
remember.
said something at one of the sessions that we were at. She said, even the very worst thought you're thinking with the power of God.
Not the ego.
No. And then David posted this on Facebook. I'm just not sure if it's on here or on my iPad, but I think it's on here. Yeah. Just bear with me while I bring it up. To believe you can think apart from God is the authority problem. It's believing you the author of yourself. That really answers your question.
But you're right, it's sometimes challenging to know, well, what's me and what's not me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole art of it. It's not an exact science.
When I saw it, I went, oh, I love that. Because we're always thinking with the power of God. Even if it's a terrible thought, we're still thinking it with the power of God. It's whether we're going to continue with that thought or whether we're going to say, no, this doesn't serve.
Let me give you my example and then see if you can relate to what I'm going through.
Yeah.
So I've got a little garden center, and it doesn't do particularly well with retail, like with man off the street. And an old gentleman came into my life by complete chance and offered me a piece of property in Kailami to start a garden center. And it's on Main Road, past the Yuko prison, so it's a busy road. And I was so excited by the idea, but it's raw ground, there's nothing there. And it's going to take basically all the money that I do have, all my savings, it's going to take to just get something started. Not a proper garden center, but to get something started. And so it sort of came to me. So I'm thinking, well, this isn't from me. This is you know, this is something from source, you know. And now I'm starting to get a few roadblocks. Like I found out that his Eskom account is like 250 grand in arrears, and
not a good sign.
yeah, and his rates and taxes are in arrears as well. And now I'm going, okay, well, decision time. I have to make a decision. Am I signing the lease or not? And I'm going, please
show me.
Show me.
Give me some divine guidance.
And every time I do think, okay, I'm going to do it, like something happens. And so now is it me or is it the Holy Spirit? Like, and I'm really struggling with it, I must be honest.
My thought is then our spirit, if it's meant to be to provide the money that wouldn't touch your savings, to put into it, that would sort everything out, then you'd know. Because then you're not, I don't believe spirit would put you in a position where you would lose everything.
Well, you don't know. Maybe that's the plan. Exactly.
So the other thing is just ask. Just ask. No, but a spirit will, I truly believe spirit will guide us. Sometimes not in the way we want it to be guided, but something that's that much debt that you have to sort out. Maybe that's why he's offering you, so you can pay him the lease, so you can start paying it off.
There was something very simple that came through. I don't want to switch my phone on, but it was just so simple and striking. God will never send you something that you can't deal with. He will always help you deal. He will only send you something that he can help you deal with. Something so simple. I'll send it to the group later on.
Yeah, in a way, because I've been practicing the course for so long now, there's a sense in me that no matter what happens, I'll always be okay, because this is just the world, you know, and I'm not this body, you know. So I get that, but at the same time, there's a part of me that still buys into fear, you know, and so.
The same part that felt jealousy. So
exactly. And then I get frustrated. Gee, are you still down here?
Self-judgment. That's a great trick of the ego.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, you're never going to get this right. You've been practicing this stuff for 12 years and you still haven't got it. So quit now because you just...
Yes.
Well, I've got something, but it's
So on
from
and so
hell
on.
of a smaller scale. But I've really told Patricia. I've had 3, I call them miracles. Because my ex-husband was an alcoholic, so I don't have much to fall back on, and I can't afford a good medical aid. And I need these glasses fixed. I had a fall, unfortunately, and I've been quoted anything from 3,000 to 6,000. You know, a friend of mine told me about the Lions group run a thing called Bright Sight in Benoni. Made an appointment for Tuesday. I will have a test. I test for 100 Rand. Bifocals are the most expensive, which I need. 700 Rand, 800 Rand as opposed to 6,000, etc. And then also, when I fell, I knocked out 2 teeth here. And then someone told me about this retired guy who does the dental thing. And then I was horrified when I took my denture out. I didn't even notice it before. I've got a rather dull bathroom and I didn't, anyway, it sheared almost in half. And he fixed the whole thing for 400 Rand. This would have cost me about 1,000 or something if I'd sent it in the normal way. And then the third one was a friend of mine is had hypnotherapy done to herself, and she's a different person. And something just triggered in me. I just knew I had to have this done, but it's not cheap. And the only other thing I could think of was sell my jewels, my mother's pearls from, they've been around the world, my mom and dad, and they got these pearls in Tokyo. And then I just approached one guy, says, no, I'm not going to give much for the pearls because they're out of fashion. Anyway, then there was someone who I was put in touch with. He actually says, well, how much do you want for them? I said, I know they cost an awful lot more, but what about 500? He gave me 1,000 in cash. And that will cover, was selling my mother's engagement ring and my grandmother's signet ring. That will cover the expense of this hypnotherapy. I just think it's just all fallen into place. It's incredible. So it's mostly happened with you on a bigger scale.
Yeah, I'm just waiting.
Well,
Just being patient.
sometimes you need to. For me, I mean, you can only share my own personal experience of it, but there's something that just feels right. It's not really a thinking thing.
Yes.
If you start overthinking it and getting into, well, you know, there's this opportunity and how much money could I make, and now the guy's not paying his bills, and what, you know, it's, you get caught in that. And I think it's more just a feeling thing, and that's not always that. Well, when I've really acted intuitively in the past, it's just like almost an instant knowing. And I just kind of went with that. You know, the ego tries to come in and overthink it and put doubts in the way, but it was just like, no, I just kind of went with my first impression of, yeah, I know I need to do that, and I don't, yeah, okay, there's apparently a reason for it. Like I wouldn't have just gone to that conference, for instance, if I hadn't been working on that particular model. But actually that wasn't the real reason that I went over. There was something unfolded from that I could never have predicted. And I just listened to that feeling, like there was an impulse. So I think if you can get quiet enough and calm it's about letting go of that chatter and, you know, the ego's thoughts and the emotions that go with it, and just kind of find a space where you can be open and empty and go, okay, well, what does it feel like? What does that whole thing feel like? Just show me. And then, you know, you should know, because it will either feel, yes, I really feel that's called to do that, and you can't really describe it. It's just like quite a strong kind of pull to do it, and it feels right. Or, you know, no, don't go there. That's this. But then it's a, you know, it's not the ego's fears and stuff. It's coming from a deeper place. I think, you know, the Holy Spirit will tell you, will give you the discernment to go, you know, yes, that's the right path for you. No, that's not the right path for you, because that's what we have to do. You have to make a choice. So I don't know if that's at all helpful, but it's more a feeling thing. I think you can get in touch with the feeling of it. And maybe that just means more quieting your mind, more meditation, to go, like, I get my best business ideas in meditation, without a doubt. It's getting very quiet and the mind's still, and you kind of, it's a paradox, because you let go, you're going like, you know, I'm going into that space of letting go of everything. The world's not really real. I'm just in that nice, open, expansive state. And then, like, you enter into that state, and then maybe something comes. And it's like, it's not the normal train of thought. It's not the normal ego, oh, you know, how am I going to pay my bills, or how am I going to do that deal, or whatever. It's more like, oh, okay, like some more kind of creative, expansive idea kind of emerges from that place. And those are the ideas that you should pay attention to.
Yeah.
If you go into a meditative state when you're not quite awake, but you're very prone to, you know, suggestions and coming from your subconscious, whatever, Holy Spirit, I always find that's the best time. Before I get up and I've just woken up, kind of not quite awake, that's when I ask questions.
Yeah, we do.
I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. What section are we doing?
So the preface, we can look at the second part of it, which is what it is. So I'm not sure we've done that. So do you want to just read a paragraph?
Okay. What it is, as it.
I think skip that. That's just, we all know that. Do you want to just go to paragraph 2?
As it's.
No,
as
the
it-
curriculum, the course
the
proposes,
curriculum.
because the first stuff is just the
The
workbook is.
curriculum the course proposes is carefully conceived and is explained step by step. Both the theoretical and practical levels. It emphasizes application rather than theory, experience rather than the theology. It specifically states that the universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible but necessary. Although Christians in the statement of the course deals with the universal spiritual things, the emphasis that it is but one vision of the universal curriculum. There are many others. This one differs from them only in form. They all lead to God in the end.
That's lovely. Any questions about that? Or?
No, just a note that I've been listening to a lot of things about the Upanishads. And it's quite amazing how the same message runs through. And, you know, there are different paths to finding oneness, but we all get there in the end. It's very real for me after listening to that.
Yeah, and I love the way he's saying, look, this is not an exclusive path, and it's not going to be for everyone. So don't go into the normal, religious dogma trap of like, this is the way and the only way, and everyone else is a heathen and unbeliever, and, deserves to die. And it's like, it's a universal curriculum, and if it resonates with you and this is your curriculum, then study it. And if someone is not on that path, then that's fine. They're on their path.
That was a lesson that I learned, because when I first started reading it, I was so excited. I wanted to tell everybody.
Yes.
And I was everybody, and people would just like
go, what?
No, not interested. And I was like, but you're missing it, man.
Yeah.
And eventually I had to learn it's not for everybody, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. How do you, for instance, you take what is the word I'm thinking of? Sorry, I think I have to think about the word.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Karen, do you want to read? Third paragraph.
The text is largely theoretical and sets forth the concepts on which the course's thought system is based. Its ideas contain the foundation for the workbook's lessons. Without the practical application the workbook provides, the text would remain largely a series of abstractions, which would hardly suffice to bring about the thought reversal at which the course aims. The workbook contains...
No, just one paragraph in it.
Okay.
And if anything struck you there, or you have any questions, feel free to. That's fairly self-explanatory, though, I think. But I think the important point there is he's saying the workbook is where the rubber meets the road. It's where you actually apply the ideas. Otherwise, it can just be as I said, a series of abstractions, which you don't really apply to your life, and it's like intellectual masturbation to use sorry, it's a bit crude, but effectively that's what it becomes.
Nice to know.
Yeah, nice to know. And aren't I so clever because I know all these, these higher spiritual ideas, and that's that can happen. That's how the egos will hijack the spiritual path and say, okay, well, I'll go with you and I'll just create an identity out of
now I know more than you. I'm the more spiritual one because I've got all this high knowledge, and actually not really applying it to your, to your own life, and humbling yourself and doing what the course is saying. So the workbook, which you're going to work through it in the first part of this course, the first 35 lessons, is really very practical. He's saying, here are these very practical ideas. So for example, today's one, 24, is I do not perceive my own best interests. Which, like for you, that's a great lesson. Read it and go, okay, I don't really perceive my own best interest in this situation. And let me just look at that. And if I can use that lesson, apply it to that particular situation you're wrestling with, and just use it to kind of drop all those expectations that you think, you know what you need and what you want, then maybe the truly inspired answer can come. But you have to be willing to go, I don't really know what I'm doing. Basically
remove yourself from the equation.
Yeah, and admit I don't really know what I'm doing. That's what he's saying.
Yeah,
it's quite funny actually, the course is on that. He's like, people just don't have a clue. you really think you do, but I promise you really have no idea what your own best interests are and what's actually going to serve you. And the only way you're ever going to get any clue of those is if you just let go, like I'm showing you. You've got to drop all those ideas of who you think you are and how you think your life should play out, and it's quite funny actually.
You keep learning the same things over and over.
The thing I was thinking of is enlightenment, if nothing else, that one word. How do you perceive it?
How do I perceive enlightenment?
Because a friend of mine told me something which
Didn't you ask this
it
question
sounds
last
so
week?
simple.
Yeah, it is actually very simple. I think, to quote that when I shared in the expression session, it's just that being in the moment, being in that peace and really experiencing it.
In other words, you are aware of your inner self, your higher self.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
but it
how
doesn't
she
even
came
go
across with it, and I think it's amazing.
like those are all words in the end. Like, again, it's an intellectualization of a feeling that I just had in that moment. It wasn't like, oh, now I'm aware of my inner self, because then you've immediately gone out of it, because now the mind's come in and try to interpret the experience.
It's the dual experience.
Yeah, as soon as you put words to it, it's more just like,
Just awareness, it's my mind.
yeah,
Really good way to describe it.
the name of God in the Bible is I am that I am. I am that I am.
I am that, I am.
And that's all it is. It just is very simple presence or beingness or isness, and it's staying rooted in that. Even when you operating in the world and you're doing whatever you're doing, it's just staying in that presence
There's
and
no
allowing.
sense of self.
Yeah, no sense of a separate self. It's just like I am the presence is me, as Jesus said, I am the Father, and the Father is me.
That's exactly what you're saying.
But
awareness.
it's an experience. The words the words can point to it, I guess. That can be helpful, but it's why most people don't really understand what Jesus meant, because you have to have experienced it to really get it. And that experience doesn't necessarily just happen. You often have to do, there's a lot of undoing, layers of the onion that are going to come off, a lot of mind training, a lot of spiritual practice to just be able to have the simple experience of being completely present in the moment, completely one with that source. It's a simple thing, but it's.
I think Arten said it quite nicely in the Experience of the Universe, where he said, in the end, Jesus only heard the Spirit's voice.
Yeah.
He no longer heard the ego at all.
One voice.
He only heard that Spirit and the voice from the Holy Spirit.
Well, of course, yourself and the Holy Spirit are one. So we go back to this awareness. I still think that's the greatest way of describing it.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about terminology. So all these words in the course, as he says, Christian in statement. So it uses Christian terminology, but there's other terms for the same things. There's in the Eastern teachings, they'll call these things different things. Call the spirit the Atman, or so 6 of one and half a dozen of another. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's really about the feeling of it.
Experience.
The universe, as he says, I think down the line we'll get there. It's a universal experience.
You said it in reverse. But a universal experience
Yes,
is
exactly.
not only possible but necessary.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to head to. I think that sometimes we forget that there is only one mind. We are all one. Yes, we're each having this individual experience, but I think it's connecting back to seeing, and please know, and these are just things I know, but experiencing is a very different point, is that we have to begin to see everybody as the Christ, everyone as ourselves. When we do that, then we wouldn't have all this hatred and fear and doubt and jealousy and confusion, and all of that would not come up. And I think I was reading on the last page, it says, acknowledge Christ in all your brothers. We recognize his presence in ourselves. So that moment we get to that, that's where we're heading. That's what this whole thing is about, is that we can't walk this journey without our brother, because he's our teacher. He's the person freeing me. The person pushing your button is the very person who's freeing you. The person who, yeah, because when you begin to see them as part of the whole, how can the whole hate the whole? How can you hate part of who you are? If you're part of who I am, and you are, and you are, and you are my husband, and everything, then how can you begin to hate any part of it? And when, I think that is exactly what it is. And in the third section, it says, sin is defined as a lack of love. Surely, the minute we have any doubt, any fear, any confusion, that is a lack of love, because we separated ourselves from the very part of us that is whole.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shall we move on?
Okay.
Do you want to read
The workbook.
Yeah.
Where are we? I haven't even got it.
We're in the preface, and it's section 2 of the preface called What It Is, paragraph 4, is it?
Yeah.
Is that
Paragraph
paragraph
5.
9?
No, there
It's
will be
page
paragraphs.
9 in your section, but with Roman numerals.
It's actually paragraph 4.
Paragraph 4, yeah.
Oh, well, I haven't got it.
Go back
Sorry.
a page.
You haven't got a preface.
You have,
This book
go
is full of thoughts.
back another page.
I thought I had it, isn't it? It's the word book.
Okay. The workbook includes 365 lessons. It is not necessary, however, to do the lessons at that tempo, and one might want to remain with a particular appealing lesson for more than one day. The instructions urge only that not more than one lesson a day should be attended. The practical nature of the workbook is underscored by the introduction to its lessons, which emphasizes experience through application rather than prior commitment to a spiritual goal. Shall I carry on?
Hazel, do you want to read the next paragraph?
Some of the ideas the workbook presents you will find. Some of the ideas the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling. This does not matter. You are merely asked to apply the ideas as you are directed to do. You are not asked to judge them at all. You are asked only to use them. It is their use that will give them meaning to you and will show you that they are true. Remember only this: you need not believe the ideas. You need not accept them, and you need not even welcome them. Some of them you may actively resist. None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy. But do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains. And whatever your reactions to their ideas may be, use them. Nothing more than that is required.
Okay. Any comments on that? It's fairly self-explanatory, but
I think all of the whole comment needs to be like the book away.
I remember resisting certain ideas in the beginning.
They can't be. Through the way gravity has is rather easy not taking it.
and he's saying to you, you're not going to agree with all of this. I mean, you'll have resistance, but that doesn't matter.
Just do it.
Just do it. Do the exercises.
And it's amazing because you do resist, and then a while later you got
That very one that you resisted is the answer.
a little light goes off and you go, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Now I see. And I see my ego in the whole experience.
Yeah, it's very comforting because it's saying, look, you don't have to be an intellectual genius or, particularly gifted or anything. Even if you've got resistance, you can do this course. You just got to do it. It's like just apply the lessons, read the lessons, apply them as directed, and then you're going to get a benefit. None of it will matter if you just keep doing it. The problem comes as people just go, no, I'm not going to do it. Put the book away. And it stays on bookshelves for years sometimes, as you know. 14 years, yeah.
That was my second one.
Yeah.
But it's not spotless in 10 years' time because I didn't tell you properly, but it's been used now.
No. But that's probably the case. I mean, there's something like 3 million copies that have been sold, but you wonder how many of them are actually being read or they're just sitting on bookshelves. No one's probably 90%.
Remember that guy
not being used.
we used to meet at the lake at Emmerich there.
Yeah,
And that guy came to tell me, lived actually across the road from on the
I
other
do.
side.
Yeah, what
He's
was
a
his name?
lawyer.
Yeah, I got an email from him the other day.
And when he lost everything, literally everything, his business, everything, they were packing up. He saw the book. And he took the book out and he said, I think it's time for this book. And he'd also, I think he said it had been on the shelf for 15 years or something. And then he took that book and he went to India. And he came back, he was like, when he just opened his mouth, like this piece just descended on you because it's just like a whole different person. Who was that?
Says, I've got an email.
He only came once or twice.
Yeah,
He came once to talk to us.
he was into the Eastern
Yeah,
teacher,
but he
I don't know if
actually said,
but he had read the course. Yeah.
they were packing up his house because he'd lost everything.
Did you see? So there's the Holy Spirit's plan for him was you got to lose everything to get your attention.
I'm sitting there looking at Patricia with these eyes like this because this book, so I can't remember the year, 2007 maybe. I can't remember the exact year. I had the vacuum break off my geyser exploded. And the only reason my house didn't burn to the ground was because the water from the geyser pushed out 300,000 liters of water because the vacuum breaker that normally stops the water from going. So the security phoned me and they said, ma'am, I think you better come home. And I said, why? Is there someone there at the gate for me? And they said, no, there's just some water. There's some water coming out of your house. I said, what? I'm a drip tray by the lounge. No, ma'am, there's really water coming out of your house. I said, look, I'm in Joburg at a meeting at the moment. I think I can make it back to Pretoria East by 4 o'clock. They said, I don't think that
Then you should
and he
cancel your
puts the
meeting.
phone down. So I'm in the meeting and I'm thinking, gee, wow, I wonder where my new kitten is. Like at that point, Davey, my main coon, so it was 2007, his favorite spot to sleep was on my bed. So I'm driving back from Joburg and I'm thinking, stop the speeding fine. And I get a phone call from my mom and she says, you better get home. And I said to her, I'm on my way. I'm like going 160 km an hour. So she says, okay. And I just hear like strange commotion. So anyway, I drive in and I turn down the road of complex and I think, yes, man, there's a river running through the complex. I don't know what this is all about. I close my car windows and I drive into my driveway. And I think to myself, that river is coming from my house. I open the door and I get flooded with water up to my waist. I run to my car, I pick up my insurance contract, and it says your house is insured and for another 2 days of my contract. I pick up my camera and I start wading through my house. Just switch off the electricity, start wading through my house. And I'm on the phone, but you can see the camera's like this. I'm on the phone to the insurance. And then, ma'am, is there a problem? I said, there's a huge problem. So I look at the staircase and there's this water coming over the staircase. And my mom walks in. Now she's crying, she's freaking out. And I go, gee, I always knew I wanted an indoor water feature. This is taking it a little bit to the extreme. Anyway, long story short, I mean, we were up till 11 o'clock that night, literally ripping the whole house out. I mean, the ceiling had collapsed onto the bed where my main coon used to sleep. He had found himself to a dry room in the house. The water just pushed up. I mean, it destroyed the garden, the pool pump sank. I mean, then they said to me, the insurance assessor says, oh no, sorry, I hope you should sit down. I think this is going to be put down to negligence, and they'll only pay you up to 10,000 rand. Notwithstanding the fact I had to move out of the house, and the contents of my entire house fitted into a quarter of this room in a few boxes. I unpacked them. I mean, the thing flooded from the top to the bottom because when the vacuum breaker went, the water went all over the ceiling. I lost all my books, all my clothes, every single thing except for CDs and jewelry. The 2 books that were next to my bed were Rhonda Bryn, The Secret, and Masuru Emoto, The Hidden Messages in Water. Those weren't so hidden.
Oh, no.
Those weren't so hidden. So I put I moved in 4 months later, put the few belongings back, went overseas on my trip that I had to postpone for 3 months because I had literally a shell on my hand. Got home and I thought to myself, sure, I'm really thirsty. Open up the cabinet where I had only 1 little bottle of brandy for it if my mom went round, 1 little bottle of gin for if my brother-in-law went round, and they were both gone. And I thought, who's been having a party? Went upstairs and I thought, I'm going to put a CD on. CDs were gone. I thought, well, I'll get up and go to work and put my necklace on. I had a burglary.
So it all got taken.
To the complete extreme, losing everything that you could have lost. And that's why I was saying that just that epiphany of like, those were strong messages, but you know what book was intact?
No, that didn't get flooded.
Not at all. I mean, some
How
of the
that
books I tried to,
just above the water level, isn't it?
I can't even remember where this book was because everywhere I had books was flooded. In my cupboards, in my bookcases.
So when everything else gets stripped away, whatever's left is the truth. Okay, so I'll just read the rest of it a little bit. And finally, the manual for teachers, which is written in question and answer form, provides answers to some of the more likely questions a student might ask. It also includes a clarification of a number of the terms the course uses, explaining them within the theoretical framework of the text. That's actually really worthwhile reading, by the way, the clarification of terms. The course makes no claim to finality, nor are the workbook lessons intended to bring the student's learning to completion. At the end, the reader is left in the hands of his or her own internal teacher, who will direct all subsequent learning as he sees fit. While the course is comprehensive in scope, truth cannot be limited to any finite form, as is clearly recognized in the statement at the end of the workbook. The course is a beginning, not an end. No more specific lessons are assigned, for there is no more need of them. Henceforth, hear but the voice for God. He will direct your efforts, telling you exactly what to do, how to direct your mind, and when to come to him in silence, asking for his sure direction and his certain word, which is how the course leaves you. So it's not an exact instruction there. In fact, most religions, when they start saying there's 685 rules of conduct for how you should behave, you start losing the plot, don't you? So, shall we continue what it says?
I think we should close dinner and
Okay.
we should have tea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just ask a quick question.
Sure.
Where is the clarification of the terms? Is it is after the teacher's manual? Okay, I just to most probably right to go back.
I think it's actually technically part of the teacher's manual.
Yeah,
But,
just after the teacher's manual.
That's
so that's where.
Yes, please. I just put to the back. Just to be right here.
Did you read the disclaimer?
This is that's what I wanted to check. And this is the supplement.
Did you order it again? Or?
I'll tell you from the story.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while Patricia was looking, so I eventually gave it back to the library with the phone, and I bought it. Okay, I wasn't playing with that. I bought it at the same time as this book, which I didn't realize. And for love or money, I couldn't find it for years. So the first question I actually asked when I joined the online session was, I said, wow, this sounds so much like the start to disappearance of the universe. And everybody flat out laughing and said, well, that's the book that you're supposed to read. I'm like, oh no, I know, I didn't get to the Course of Miracles. So I searched high and low. And the only conclusion that I could come to was that it was one of the books in the flood. But a vague recollection reminded me of unpacking it when I moved from Pretoria to Joburg. And I know where everything is in the house. I can find something, I can find a pink paperclip in the dark in our house. Could I find that book? Patricia kindly lent her the book, you won't believe it.
What?
The other day I opened a drawer and I've got a little shrine. On the one side is my stuff, my incense and spiritual stuff, and on the other side is Bruce's stuff. And I'd written him like a poem and on a piece of cardboard, and he had put it inside. And I thought, but I'm sure there was something in this drawer that I never open these drawers. I'm sure there was something in this drawer that I needed. And I picked up the poem and the prayer that I'd written.
There it was.
And there's the disappearance.
Interesting. After all those years.
After all those years. Sorry, I should have brought this, but there's also the other book. The smaller, thinner one, the Immortal Reality, that one.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how the universe, like, actually just.
No, it's the time.
Brought back.
When I have to share with you because you'll appreciate it. When I was reading Your Immortal Reality, my father-in-law, who died last year, he must have been about 91, but he was in hospital. Because when he came up and I took him to the doctor, his entire life he's had a heart murmur, but it's always been quite bad. So that the doctors in Joburg started to panic about it and had him admitted to hospital, and the specialist came and saw him, and everybody had a look at it and everything else like that. They even put him in intensive care for a day to run all the tests because they were so worried about his heart. But he's a pretty stubborn old man. And he said, but I've been living like with this heart for all these years. Why are you worrying about it now? You know, because they wanted to correct the heartbeat rate and everything. And I would love to phone that doctor and say, you know, he lived for another 7 years.
Wow.
But to cut it, so I was reading the book. Now he can't see because he had macular degenerated eye disease. So I'm sitting reading the book because I've taken my mother-in-law to see him. And she's just chatting. She says to me, what are you reading? So I just showed her the book. So she said out aloud. Now it's about 2:30 in the afternoon when all the beds, and there are 4 people in the room, you know, and then there's an interleading room with 4 other beds on that side. And I just showed her the book. So she said out aloud, oh, Your Immortal Reality. This old man who'd been half asleep just sat dead up in bed. He went, when you're dead, you're dead. And he's the quietest old man, but he said it so loud that the nurse comes. We're upset this woman, and the man just sat up and said, when you're dead, you're dead. I laughed I couldn't stop laughing. I had to leave the room because anyway, I remember telling Terry the story when we were at meditation the next time. And he said that things like that just push your soul, that you can't, you just don't want to accept it. That's why that reaction is so sort of almost so instant and everything, because you're just pushing at someone's soul that has actually no belief. And so that was very funny. And if you'd met him, ask him, he's the most frail, quietest gentleman you've ever in your whole life met. Real gentle, still got up for ladies when they walked in the room. Every night he'd go to bed, he'd stand at the door, and every single night, the thing I miss the most about him, he'd turn, open the door, turn, and he'd say, "Thank you for a lovely day." He hadn't done much all day, and then close the door and go to bed.
This is Dave's father.
Huh?
You're talking
Yeah.
about Dave's
Yeah.
father.
Yeah, I used to.
He was, real colonial type man with the etiquette and all of that. So you can imagine how funny that was in the house. All the patients woke up.
So to close the session, I think maybe we'll do it with an introduction, just kind of
But Dave all the time.
paradoxical. So just I did it in the introductory meditation, but let's do it again, and we can chat about it over tea. So this is just this is the executive summary of the course. If you're really advanced, you'll read that and you'll go, "I've read enough. I get it." But 99.99% of people are like, "What? What is he saying here? What does he mean?" So I'll just guide you through it in a little meditation to close if you want. So just close your eyes, get yourself comfortable, connect with your breath again. So breathing in, breathing out. Notice how the stomach rises, the stomach falls. Just connecting with that nice, open, spacious awareness into which you're going to allow these words to drop. You don't have to try and understand them intellectually, just allow them to drop in and sit. And know that true understanding will come in time. It's enough to just allow the words into your awareness, into your experience, because in doing that, you're signifying your willingness to one day ultimately understand them fully. So just listen from that nice, open, calm space. You're an empty vessel, allowing these profound words to fill your cup. So this is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. In other words, we're all taking it whether we like it or not. Only the time that you take it, you take to do it, might be another way of saying that. Only the time you take to do it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. This curriculum is beyond our establishment. It's God's establishment. It's based on a truth that is beyond your power to change. So free will means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. What you choose to learn, how fast you learn your lessons, that's free will, but ultimately the curriculum is set, and this course is a required course because of that. So the course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love.
For that is beyond what can be taught. So it's setting the scope, saying I can't teach you the meaning of love. It's beyond what can be taught. But it does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So it's setting the scope very clearly. It's about removing these blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. So restoring your natural inheritance or state of mind. So apparently the opposite of love is fear in this dualistic world that appears to be true. But actually, in truth, what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. So there's really no opposite to truth. Maybe you can get a little glimpse of that now. In this final summation, this course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And just allow that to open your mind into a state of love and gratitude. Just feel that nice open, expansive feeling we call love. You smile because the Spirit is with you. The Spirit is always guiding you. You've been on this course your entire life, even though you haven't always been aware of it. So now you're just coming into an awareness that there is a curriculum, there is a course, and this is the purpose of your life, to study this course and learn its lessons. So herein lies the peace of God. Just feel that peace. Allow it to arise in your heart, in your mind. Breathe it in. One hand in your heart center that helps you feel the love, the peace, and the gratitude. Just give thanks for the session, for the knowledge, the wisdom that's come through us, guidance of the Holy Spirit to learn these lessons, for the mighty companions that are with us on the journey, for this house that we're in, for the hospitality, for everything around this experience. Just give thanks for that. And set the intention to carry this feeling of love and gratitude, which is, to refer to what Karen said earlier in Masaru Emoto's book, Hidden Messages of Water. He mentions that the crystal associated with love and gratitude, frozen water crystal that he photographed, was the most beautiful crystal of all, in his opinion. So just feel that beauty in you now. Give thanks again. The intention to stay there in this nice, loving, peaceful, grateful state for the rest of the afternoon and evening, and on into your week ahead. So it is said, so it's done. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jono.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.